Well, hello there, White Sox fans. My name is Brett Ballantini, at least for the remaining few seconds of this podcast before my laptop decides to incinerate. And I will no longer be with you hosting the Southside Sox podcast number 133. And Chrystal O'Keefe will take up the mantle and talk about, hey, wait, I decided I needed to come here and be part of this podcast when what is there to say? I certainly have nothing to say. Anyway, you're stuck with me and six of my very closest friends from Southside Sox. We are going to be discussing the 2022 winter meetings, during which the White Sox did very little. What little they did, we'll discuss in the second half of this show. So if you want to skip right to that because you only want to hear about White Sox news, what is wrong with you? You can do that because we'll be talking White Sox and complaining White Sox in the second half of this. However, because I have so little to say, and because, again, my time on this planet is short, let's just kick off talking about what has been billions of dollars being spent here so far in this off season. First of all, hats off to Melissa Sage-Bollenbach, who has sort of become our winter meetings beat writer, 3 straight stories each evening. Thank you so much, Melissa. Especially thankless when you know there's no hope of your team doing anything. And today's story with the White Sox news insert here, parenthetical, particularly delicious and humorous twist, because at this point, rinse, repeat, nothing really to say about the White Sox. That said, Aaron Judge, just Wednesday evening, signs a $40 million a year contract, stays in New York. Did you think there's any chance, Melissa or anyone else there, that he was going to skip to San Francisco or San Diego? And he's still in the American League, hitting those Goldilocks baseballs. What do we think about Aaron Judge remaining a rival to the White Sox for the next decade?
As soon as John tweeted that out, there was a possibility that he'd be going to the Giants. I was like, all right, well, he's staying in New York.
Yeah, reverse magic 8-ball. Melissa.
Yeah, just really following like the feed of like pretty much minute by minute what was going on at the winter meetings, and when that kind of started about San Francisco and the fact that he is a California boy, I thought there was a pretty good chance that it was going to happen. Yeah. That, you know, he wanted to be out there and the West Coast and the warm weather and kind of a fresh start. And I thought it kind of made sense, but evidently he wants to be El Capitan. So off to New York he is.
I thought it would have been fun. I thought it would have been fun to see a big name like Judge. Like, I mean, we've seen. I mean, basically almost every big free agent has changed teams except for Judge. But it's like when you've got that much money on the table for that good of a player, it's sometimes, you know, refreshing to see them be like, I want to go somewhere else. You know, some change of scenery. You know, fuck with the National League for 10 years.
I was a little, I mean, I don't want to read too much into social media, but he kind of like scrubbed his social media of the Yankees there for a little bit too. So that was where I was like, well, if he's really cleaning that portion out, then maybe he really isn't re-signing. And then 2 days later, he's back with the Yankees. So I don't really know what that move was like. Was he just trying to psych people out, or I don't know, maybe he had a really good conversation with Hal or Brian Cashman or something, but I thought he was going elsewhere.
Yeah, Allie, there was, I think, too, where that story surfaced where he like dreamed like one day, I don't know, he was in high school or he was 3 or whatever, that he was going to marry his like girlfriend. I guess he did that, and then he was going to play for the Giants, and that story sort of like came out. I don't think he necessarily put it out there, but it just sort of did seem to be pointing that a move might be made, and you shake your head and think, New York, I mean, what are the Yankees going to do as a result? Because they're, you know, burn down the league. You know, they can't take that kind of abuse. They get all the players.
Also,
you can go.
I'm just wondering, like, they've got 3 players under $300 million contracts now too. So like, I mean, I know they've got money to spend, but just like, how much more money are you really willing to spend, I guess? So like, how good are they going to continue to be? Like, yeah, you're the Yankees. Yeah, you're historic, but you're also spending a lot of money. Also, I guess I'm just used to not spending money. So
yeah. Strap it down. And you can't do better than last year. And you know, and they didn't get close last year. So I mean, spending and winning even a lot of games in the regular season doesn't ensure you anything. Any other Judge reaction we want to make sure to get to, because he's the top story.
Yeah, let's see. Congrats to Aaron Judge. You know, He bet on himself and he won
Yeah, he
big
did.
time.
He did.
He won him an extra 246.5 million. I mean
That's not bad.
146.5 million. And that's always great. I am a agent of chaos and would have loved if he went to the Giants, or if the Padres last minute offer would have worked. Because they offered him the same deal but an extra year and an extra 40 mil. So like that would have been great for him too.
Yeah.
Also, just with the Yankees, they're back to square one still. Like they didn't add anything they didn't have already. Does this mean they're gonna be better than the Astros?
Right.
Astros lost Justin Verlander, yet I don't really think that's gonna hurt them as much as people think it will. He's 30. He's turning 40 soon. He's great. He's amazing, but like they have a pitching rotation that's still ridiculous.
Mhm.
So congrats to the Yankees on keeping the guy they had to keep. Because if they don't keep Judge, you might as well just start the rebuild. Like,
Yeah.
what is Anthony Rizzo, Giancarlo Stanton, and Garrett Cole going to combine to be the face of your franchise now? I don't think so.
We want the Yankees to suffer. Hey, speaking of Justin Verlander, he went to the New York Mets, and the New York Mets left Jacob deGrom. All the dominoes fell very quickly, and Justin, the old man, I believe it was Tyrone. I'm sure many pointed out Tyrone Palmer, who said that that contract is more than the White Sox have ever given anybody at any time under any term. But we're going to talk about the White Sox in the second half. So thoughts of, I guess, the deGrom move to the American League for quite a length of time, and then of course Verlander just probably continuing his excellence in New York, and he jumped quick.
Yeah, I like how quick that happened. Like, I wish the White Sox were a team that would be like, we didn't get our guys, so let's pivot to the next best available option. Because losing deGrom stung for the little bit of time they had to go while having Verlander. Like, and the thing is, deGrom is probably the best pitcher in baseball. He's also, like, in terms of injuries, a piece of paper. So that's always something to consider. So I get why they want to give him the extra years and the money for it. And Verlander is a proven commodity, has been a proven commodity forever. Has had one okay season that wasn't just magnificent because it's Justin Verlander. He's like some of the best NBA players where it's like, come on, you can give them MVP every year, but like you get tired of.
Dante, it's worth pointing out, you don't have to pivot when you went out and got the job done by getting Mike Clevenger. You don't have to pivot when you got Clevenger. Anyway, other reactions to this, to the New York, Texas thing.
Well, I want to say real quick to Dante's point of pivoting. You can't pivot when there wasn't a guy that you were planning on to begin with, which I'm almost certain the White Sox have no one on their radar that's any good. So their second best option is just a minor leaguer, probably, or nothing. So that's how every option goes. But I like it. I like the moves. I like deGrom to Texas was interesting. Texas is just like slowly just building a Death Star by spending a fuck ton of money.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's sometimes how it has to go. Sometimes it's cool to see it, again, I like watching teams spend money because I live vicariously through fans of other teams. And Verlander getting $43 million a year for 2 years is absolutely insane, especially with how old he is. But he's like the Tom Brady of baseball at this point. He's just gonna stay around forever, and then when he has to retire, he's unstoppable. He's inevitably gonna finish top 3 in the Cy Young voting again, and so he's gonna do good on the Mets. I mean, replacing deGrom with Verlander is probably the best move they could have done, other than get like Rodon, which he's still on the market, so maybe they will.
I have many qualms with this personally. Jacob deGrom is my birthday twin. Actually, he's like a triplet because Colleen Sullivan and I share a birthday. Also, I hate Texas in general. Like everything about Texas is just very unpleasant for me as a person. Also, I don't love that the team I also root for, because the White Sox are so bad, now has to deal with his brother, Ben, who is insufferable at all times, and now Kate Upton and a very old pitcher who might be great, but is also 40 almost. So I'm not thrilled about this.
You don't see players getting paid, to that degree at that age very much at all. It's almost unprecedented, really. But I'm happy for Verlander. I mean, obviously he had the monster season, the unanimous Cy Young winner. So I mean, I'm not surprised that he got a big paycheck. I definitely think that the Mets made the best of a bad situation with losing deGrom there, and I'm for their sake, I'm very happy that they were aggressive, and they had a hole in the rotation and they just wasted no time. I think Jordan's comparison between Verlander and Brady, like, it's not a bad comparison at all. I mean, he's just about as close of a thing to Tom Brady as baseball has right now. I'm curious about how long he can keep it going. But I do think that, as far as like a short-term sort of 2-year kind of deal, I think this one will be a good one for the Mets.
Yeah, these are like Michael Jordan or LeBron James type of contracts. And, those are among the best to ever play. And I guess Justin Verlander is too, but let's stop being, I'm so happy for Justin Verlander. He's a grandpa, he's a grump, he's an old schooler. Forget it. I'm with you, Chrystal. I want to see him suffer a little bit. But okay, speaking of grump, let's flip to an anti-grump.
I just want to say I think the Texas Rangers are stupid.
Okay.
I think that deal is so stupid. Like, good for deGrom, but like, when is the last time he's made 30 starts in a season? Like, yeah, he's the best pitcher in baseball, but like, when has he not been injured as of late? Like, I feel like he's always dealing with stuff. And I feel like, throwing money at some of your problems is the solution to some of them, but throwing that much money for that long at a guy who can't consistently stay healthy, I just think is stupid. Yeah. So I just need to say that.
You just made it on Jerry Reinsdorf's holiday card list. Allie, congratulations. You're back in. I think you got your season ticket back, maybe for free. Well done. Yes. Why spend? Texas, you idiot, spending money, but point made. He's made a paper, I believe it's already come out. So yeah, they don't care. These all spin big and spit. All right, anti-Verlander, Willson Contreras, who often hits balls and watches them, which is cool. Nothing wrong with that. I used to care about that. Back when Albert Pujols did it for the Cardinals, I thought, my goodness, he should get some chin music. See, we can evolve. Even us older folks can evolve and say, hey, you know what? Lighten up. So I've lightened up. But anyway, going from the Cubs to the Cubs' hated rival, the Cardinals, Dante has a visceral reaction because he hates the Cardinals, even though he also does not agree with his father and his father's Cub fandom. But at any rate, best catcher in the market, and sort of a loss for the Houston Astros. Houston, I think, really thought they had him in the bag. They thought they're going to trade for him this past summer. Thought they were going to offer multi-year contract that was going to just get him. Why wouldn't he want to come to Houston? Well, I guess he wanted to stay not only in the National League, but stick it to the Cubs, which I can get behind. I was never a fan, but sort of a fan now. I guess how about Willson, or maybe any other people left on the board? I guess Carlos Rodon's one of them.
All right, so with Willson, like I said, my dad's a Cubs fan. You all know this. I don't hate the Cubs as much as the usual White Sox fan does. But, like, I laughed because I'm just like, of course the Cardinals Devil Magic team gets Willson Contreras. They're just like, it fits so perfectly. They screw the division rival and the biggest rival they have, and they get a really good player that the Cubs should have signed to an extension like 3 years ago. Like, it's not the best thing, but funny enough, at least the Cubs are still doing things. Like, they went and got Jameson Taillon, who we've talked about as, like, we would consider signing him. He wouldn't be a bad option for the White Sox. They got Cody Bellinger, which they overpaid for, in my opinion. but at least they did something. Meanwhile, the White Sox said Mike Clevenger, a Rule 5 guy. The rumors of Victor Reyes because we like to pick up the trash heap scraps, you know. And then the Carlos Rodon thing, I will talk more about when we get to the White Sox part because that
Okay.
has me in a mood.
Okay, that was sleeper agent Dante Jones bringing Cubs into the conversation. But hey, why not? They have made some moves. We can talk about the Cubs, whatever. I wanted to avoid it. I want to pretend they don't exist. But anyhow, they have been making moves. I think Melissa pointed out in her story tonight. It's like, oh yeah, the Chicago team that's actually doing something, and it's the truth. Maybe not doing wise stuff. The Bellinger thing is a head scratcher, but I guess other thoughts for guys who have signed or have not signed yet before we break and reluctantly talk about the White Sox.
Good for Willson. Fully support this move. Just anything to like say, fuck you, Cubs. We're taking like the only good player that you had left.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's like the World Series never happened now. They got nobody left on the team. It's like,
I'm just
Wait,
glad
wait.
Houston.
They have 2 left. They have manager David Ross
for God's
and
sake.
88 miles per hour with Cal Hendricks.
All right. Again, sleeper agent Dante Jones there checking in with us on the Cubs. Jordan or someone else have other thoughts about the Cubs and otherwise?
I don't like the Cardinals either. I hate the Cardinals probably as much as I hate the Cubs. The Cardinals just rub me the wrong way. But at least it wasn't Houston.
Yeah.
Because at that point, if they had a catcher of Contreras' quality, who the fuck's gonna stop Houston? Yeah. No one. That's who. No, they're just gonna steamroll everyone, and everyone's gonna forget about 2017 because they built some dynasty because they're Houston and they're for whatever reason good now that they've moved to the American League, and I hate it. I don't want them around.
Yeah, keep away from the cans.
I have to give the Cardinals props because that is a phenomenal pickup to fill the shoes of Yadier Molina. Willson Contreras really proved himself this last season, and I think he deserved the deal he got. I think the Cubs are shooting themselves in the foot right now, wishing they could have gotten a deal done with, I think it was the Mets he was rumored to be traded to at the deadline, because now they just watched him walk away for nothing. Like, a lot of other people have walked away for the White Sox in the past, but
Allie, they got a compensatory pick because they gave him a qualifying offer. Again, that will cue Dante in the second half. Yeah, and hey, and they also gave him a send off. They gave him like 3 send offs, and somehow we managed to not do that for Jose.
And also on the topic of the Cubs too, I will say I don't hate the 1-year Cody Bellinger deal. I think 1 year is perfectly adequate. They're trying to put some pieces together, I think, up there on the north side, and I don't necessarily hate that. Tyone I think they just got to steal with that. Like, picking him up is a really great deal. I have a couple of friends that are Yankees fans and they really liked him, and I think we're sad to see him go. So I think that's, for a team that keeps saying that they're not in a rebuild and they're just trying to put some pieces together, I think that it might work. I hope it doesn't, but
Southside Sox listeners, that is sleeper agent Allie Wesel giving props to the Chicago Cubs. Anybody else want to have nice things to say about the Cubs before I mercifully break and we talk about the White Sox?
I don't really have anything nice to say, but I can kind of stall so that we don't have to talk about the White Sox a little bit longer. I guess about as nice as I'll get is I feel sorry for there's a certain portion of the Cubs fan base that I feel kind of bad for. Watching a player as likable as Contreras, go to the most heated division rival. If they were not part of the group, that was gloating, in 2017 and 2018 during the peak of the rebuild and being like, oh, who why is Nicky Delmonico in your starting lineup, and sort of poking fun at, and sort of trashing the rebuild attempt before Rick Hahn ruined everything. Cubs fan base, it's like every MLB fan base. It's pretty large, and there's kind of a wide variety of personalities that you'll run into. So some fans there I feel sorry for, but others not so much. And but as far as the contract for Willson Contreras is concerned, I like it a lot for the Cardinals, and I feel like just about any team that needs a catcher should be happy to have him for that price.
Stay tuned to Bleed Cubbie Blue, the Chicago Cubs podcast. We're going to take a break, and believe it or not, shocking, we are going to talk about the Chicago White Sox. Why are we doing that? Well, we're going to do that. Hold with us for 1 minute. We'll be back with just a little bit of Cubs talk and maybe some White Sox talk. Hang with us, everyone. Bleed Cubbie Blue fans, welcome back. I am Brett Ballantini, your host of this podcast, which I guess is grafted together with Southside Sox because it's being published on Southside Sox. Go figure. Everything is in chaos with SB Nation here in the off season, and we're just trying to roll with it. We have addressed in the first half of this podcast many players changing teams. One major swap of Justin Verlander to the National League, Jacob deGrom back to the American League. Otherwise, it's sort of a wash so far. We'll see where anyone else still moves. Carlos Rodon and some other players still out there on the board. White Sox will not have a chance at any of them. Rick Hahn has telegraphed that very well. Melissa Sage-Bollenbach, I'd like you to kick off here. You have sort of been our winter meetings writer here at Bleed Cubbie Blue, and I appreciate all the work that you have done. Your take on White Sox and Rick Hahn. I know everybody has opinions. He said a whole lot of nothing, a lot of mush mouth stuff that he usually does. Where are you at with Rick, and what are your hopes for the remainder of the offseason?
Where am I with Rick? Because where I'm always with Rick is just sick and tired of the lawyer speak, the Han speak, him slinging his hash at us, him telling us that nobody's driving the bus, which, you know, if you got nobody driving the bus, we know what happens. Everybody's seen the movie Speed, right? I mean, the bus is going to blow up. So, yeah, it's been a frustrating winter meetings being a Sox fan because, you know, as we're talking about in the first half of the podcast, you know, the Mets had a gap. Boom, they filled it. You know, so the same with the Cardinals. It's like we've had these gaping holes for years, and it's like we just sit here and we just do nothing, or we wait for apparently everybody else to do things and the dust to settle, and then maybe we'll get around to doing something, or maybe we'll just pluck somebody from the Rule 5 draft. I mean, it's just, I don't know how to feel hopeful at all about this season when I think it was today too that Han had some remarks about, well, you know, we had some really productive discussions. Great. I'm glad you enjoyed your time in vacation in San Diego, just sitting around talking to people, Rick, because it's not really doing much to make me feel good about the 2023 season.
But Rick feels good. Other thoughts on this ball club? The White Sox.
He's got a seat at the table, and that
yeah.
At this point, that seat is like fucking a lazy boy recliner with like a massager and some warmth to it. It's warm in his butt because you know what? This team is butt and he's butt. I'm sick and tired of this asshole, to be honest. I'm really sick of Rick Hahn. I've been sick of Rick Hahn, but this is just like, can you please do literally anything to make it look like you're trying to win a baseball season?
Yeah.
Oh no, I lost video. But make it look like you're trying to win anything.
Mhm.
Anything.
Yeah.
Hell, sign players for a different sport. Make it look like you're trying to win something somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, Rick Hahn is in the rumble seat, no doubt about it. It's not a seat at the table. Hey, wait, we have added 2 players to the active roster. We already know. Listen, I already gave you the big news about this guy named Mike Clevenger. But today we picked up Nick Avila, a double-A reliever who's had one really good short relief season. That's one. Double-A pitcher. Certainly not the craziest move. He's a little bit older pitcher, 25, 26. He's with the White Sox all year, unless the White Sox want to demote him and then offer him back to San Francisco for $50,000. So basically that's another set piece of the bullpen, sort of like a signing, and a signing for less than $1 million. Wow. Anybody else as excited as me about adding Nick to our bullpen?
Oh, the bullpen, Rick's favorite thing.
Yeah,
Of course we had to
Of
add.
course he was.
If we're gonna do, yeah, if it's gonna be a Rule 5 pick, it was gonna be somebody from the bullpen. Yeah.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate just for a hot second. If we were gonna pick up a relief pitcher at any point during this offseason, I am okay with it being the Rule 5 draft.
Mhm.
It is laughable that that is the only thing that has happened during these winter meetings. Yes, but I am okay with that being the Rule 5 draft pick. So
Oh, absolutely.
I just
No.
but also your expectations for the White Sox, like you cannot be disappointed if your expectations are already on the floor.
Yeah.
So like Rick Hahn not doing anything is not, it doesn't surprise me. Like I cannot be shocked any more than I already have been.
So they succeeded. Lumps of coal in everyone's stocking before December even turns. And yeah, so exactly how we're gonna cry ourselves to sleep. Give us a break. We knew this was gonna happen.
I think he literally said today, like, what's the difference between making a bad signing at like December 6th versus January? And then tried to say
he
that
should know.
There is no difference. He makes bad signings every day of the year.
At this
Like-
point, it is almost 365.
Like 365, unless it's a leap year, and in which case it's the one day in every 4-year cycle where it makes it somehow even worse still than usual.
I mean, yeah, like he's not saying anything just completely, offensive or incorrect. Like, yes, I mean, it's true. It's far better to make a good decision, on January 7th, as opposed to a bad decision on December 7th. And like that's all accurate. But as is the case with a lot of things that he says, what he's saying isn't, well, it might not be, wrong per se. It's just very vague and kind of obvious. A lot of times he spends a lot of time answering a question by repeating the the rationale behind the question as opposed to providing like an actual concrete response. And that's that law training coming in clutch there, where he's able to be say a lot without providing a very substantial answer. And the reality is like, yeah, okay, there is a chance that maybe he's had a couple of conversations that got off the ground level a little bit, but I can't really call it a productive conversation unless there was it directly led to a signing at some point or some sort of move. And so his track record isn't very strong. That's just the reality. It's easy to see. And I'm in position where I kind of have to see it to believe it at this point.
Worth interjecting here before we get more thoughts on Rick Hahn and our dazzling offseason to come. I believe the majority of our panel here have not been in the workforce even for 10 years. Speaking as someone who has been, I can say I have not come close to 10 years at any one job. Rick Hahn has just passed 10 years as the general manager of the Chicago White Sox. There's the coal in your stocking.
I just want to say that anyone else in that position would be fired by now. And that's not even just general manager. Like if you were just every single year, if you went in for your annual review and you're like, oh, I did nothing, or, oh, I made this awful trade, you would have been fired the first year. Like my boss wouldn't put up with that.
But Chris, if he felt that he was not the person for the job, he would step away.
That's what I say Allie, every time somebody writes December 5th instead of December 5, I say, you know what? If I wasn't the right person to edit this site, I would have to leave. We all would do that. You have some personal responsibility. Rick Hahn.
I just feel like we're not even being gaslit anymore. Like at least gaslight me into thinking that maybe something will come of it. Like I am all for this like Stockholm syndrome relationship with the White Sox, but they're not even doing that anymore. They're just like, hey, no, they just like ghosted us. This is like a ghosting relationship at this point where you're like trying to text them and be like, hey, did you do anything good today? And they like blocked your number.
Right.
Like that's how I feel he views the fans at this point.
Right. Yeah. And then he tells your friends, oh, I had some good conversations. You know.
Don't listen to her. She's just crazy.
He's like someone you went with a couple of dates on from a dating app. The White Sox are like someone you went with a couple of dates on, and it looked really promising. And then you had one really kind of mediocre date, and now you're kind of just texting back and forth, not really wanting to ask when the next one's coming, because you know it's probably not at this point because the last one was so disappointing.
Let me continue this pained metaphor. It's like he had all of those restaurant gift certificates, the Chrysales and the Jose Quintanas, and he just burned them in the first 3 dates. And now, you know, you're eating at Taco Bell if you're lucky.
Okay. Some of us would like a nice date to Taco Bell.
I don't know. Like the White Sox, Taco Bell makes my stomach hurt way too often. So I'd prefer to not eat at Taco Bell for every date with Rick Hahn.
Fair enough. Fair enough. He's just not showing up anyway.
Well, maybe he'll throw a McDonald's in there or a Wendy's sometime. Get real fancy with it. You know, someday his dad, aka Jerry Reinsdorf, will give him enough money so that he can go to Culver's. But he'll make you order from the kids menu because you can't really afford that much from Culver's.
If you pretend the burgers aren't really small, you can just get a big sack of sliders at White Castle, and it's like you did a whole lot of stuff for dinner. You really didn't.
I want to get
the best way to describe him. A bunch of just shit, like a bunch of we got this and we got this, we got this and we got this and we got this and we got this, but none of it amounts to anything.
No.
Like, and now we're all just doubled over in pain because we just got like fed the worst bullshit ever.
It's Tums Tuesday at Sox Park.
I want to get Taco Bell with Rick Hahn just so that I could potentially throw up in his car and he'd be left to clean it up.
It's like you know how you see this sometimes when the like really conservative Christians leave a tip on a table and it looks like it's like a $10 bill or a $100 bill, and it's really just like got a prayer on it. That's what Rick Hahn is doing with the website.
Oh, look, it's some Christian literature.
That's so true, though.
Okay, this is so good. Oh God,
it got livelier.
So
it did get livelier. Oh, it takes us talking about the White Sox.
Hey, but get excited. Pedro Grifal went to visit Luis Robert in Florida, got to hang out at his new mansion and see his batting cage. And, you know, that's going to do a lot to help her.
Right.
Hey, at least, and Allie will back me up on this, at least we have like a hot, younger manager now. We were thirsting over him and other managers quite often.
Not going to be good. At least he's nice to look at.
It's all you can do at this point.
I just think I don't know, maybe I'm just not in tune enough with other teams, but is that the kind of stuff they're putting out for them to get excited about their season? Ooh, the manager went to visit the players at home. Like, I don't know, like there seems to me that there should be more than that to try and get us excited about the season.
You see, the other teams are doing things that mean something, unlike the White Sox.
I'll be honest, even that Eloy call, like right after he was hired or something, you know, I would have expected actually a lot more palpable excitement. I mean, I know I'm asking a lot, and it was a conversation in Spanish, so maybe I wasn't really catching all of the emotion there. But even that one, right on the heels of being hired, seemed lackluster. I can't imagine what the Luis Robert like meeting, you know, is like. How long he had to stand at the door before he was even let in.
Well, the cameras around so surely it was a little more laid back.
But we can put money to that kind of stuff. Right? Like we can put our money towards going to visit players in the off season to see where they live and check out their trampoline. I mean, come on.
I mean, better spend money than like not better spend. That's what they rather spend the money than offering Carlos Rodon a qualifying offer last year, and this year now there's rumors that the White Sox might want to go get Carlos Rodon. To which I say, you had Carlos Rodon, you literally had him, and you're just like, hey, he's broken. Let's not. And now that he's proven himself, like some other free agents, like Judge, like Verlander, like Willson, all these dudes that proved how good they were and went and got the contracts they deserved. Now Carlos Rodon's gonna go get that contract. Well, we have to. The best free agent I expect the White Sox to try to even think about getting is Chris Bassett. So we will Bassett in his glory because I am now named Scott Boras. I have puns. They are better than anything the White Sox have done in the last 6 months, maybe, including the season, because they just sucked at that too.
I don't know why you're expecting Chris when we clearly have Garrett Crochet that will be in the starting rotation by
Hey, Chrystal, expectations and reality. I expect nothing. I will get nothing. I might even get worse than nothing. Last time I expected nothing from the White Sox, I got Adam Eaton.
That's the White Sox motto. Expect nothing, get nothing.
We don't need to get that ugly, Dante. Okay. We're still so far, we're Adam Eaton free this offseason. So it's a much better offseason than a couple ago. I guess we'll start wrapping this up, but anyone who is connecting Carlos Rodon to the Chicago White Sox in the economy that he's going to get signed in, those are instant unfollows because you are being fooled with there. That absolutely will not and cannot happen. So, hey, White Sox, make it happen. Take the coal out of my stocking. Well, okay, we have Soxivus still to finish celebrating. This was a rare departure from our Soxivus proceedings over the last couple months. We will be doing a double Soxivus podcast coming up next, unless there's some great breaking news and Rick Hahn really has played possum very well, and he's going to take all the coal out of all of our stockings.
We're getting Dallas Keuchel back.
Dallas Keuchel could be coming back as perhaps player coach because he's such a motivator.
Guys, we're forgetting the best free agent signing the White Sox can make because he's saying he's still on the market. He still wants to play baseball. Cole Hamels.
You mean Coke Hamels?
Coke Hamels. Oh, why do we follow any of these people? Oh, goodness gracious. Well, anyhow, Soxivus coming up, so we'll take a departure from the offseason. But of course, if there is breaking news, we'll break in. Hey, who knows? If there's breaking Cubs news, see you, Jordan. If there's breaking Cubs news, we might break in on the Bleed Cubbie Blue podcast. But at any rate, I think we are still Southside Sox. We're going to go back to being Southside Sox with Soxivus coming up and continuing over the weekend. Please join us for that. It will be a lot of fun. We'll laugh not just at the White Sox, but with the White Sox or just completely independent of the White Sox. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We will be back again sooner than you are ready for.